Now, the more we look at light, the weirder things get with respect to human beings. This is from the Guardian paper about a year ago. We all radiate in the infrared. We're part of that part of the spectrum, heat energy. You put a camera on us where we all light up like Christmas trees. But they find that we actually have a different part of the spectrum where bioluminescent it appears, and the source of the energy seems to be highest at the level of the forehead. And nobody knows exactly how to interpret this right now, but it's just a very strange observation that we're actually emitting photons at a very, very weak level, but we have some kind of signal that's being given off. This connects to possibly to ideas of scientists in Germany are talking now about photons being exchanged as a means of communication among cells. If you take two heart cells and you put them in petri dishes separately, they'll start to beat synchronously. And they can't really account for this, but the idea is that DNA may actually be as an aperiodic crystal, and it has the property of exchanging photons. And there are several Nobel Prize-winning physicists who believe that the real role of DNA is not so much replication, chemical transcription, as it is communication through electromagnetic principle, through photons. Now this is really fringe, what I'm talking about now. This is yet to be determined, but given everything they've found, I mean, you find out people are bioluminescent, it's like, what's next? Now I'm going to go off in a different angle, as if I think maybe some of you feel like, that Far Side cartoon, the kid in the back of the class puts his hands up and, can I leave, teacher? My head is full. Hopefully you're not feeling like I'm throwing too much out here, but I want to go into solar power now, because this connects to what I'm saying. And I'll make the connection as I get toward the end of this, I promise. Here's the source. Plato, arriving outside the cave, realized this is the ultimate source, the energetic source from which all light is drawn, sun. Every second, according to Einstein's equation, 4 tons of matter is converted directly into energy. The whole bounty of life, all of the complexification, all of the symphony of light emerged out of drawing from this source. And every half an hour, enough light falls on Earth to supply the planet's civilization's entire energy needs for a year. So it's capitalizing on this bounty. This is the ultimate free lunch. It's capitalizing on it. This is the thing that human beings need to learn. And I've got a picture here. These are the first solar power panels. Photosynthesis began billions of years ago. But hundreds of millions of years ago, you had the first flowering plants, the angiosperms. And they totally revolutionized Earth in a completely new way by introducing color. So before flowers emerged, the Earth was kind of a greenish, grayish world with blue skies. Might have a little bit of red molten lava occasionally, but it was kind of a colorless place. Flowers changed all that with these brilliant hues. So through co-evolution with insects, because there's these animals that can now perceive these wavelengths of light, you had this new kind of colorful explosion of electromagnetic energy on Earth. And they were the first solar power panels, essentially. They were the collectors of light in a new manner. And a lot of people are thinking, if it worked for the plants, why can't it work for us? I mean, all of our oil, all of our coal, all of our fossil fuel energy essentially came from sunlight. This is organic matter, drawn originally from photosynthesis, decayed plants or decayed bacteria, whatever you call it. Essentially, it drew from photosynthetic energy. So why not go right to the source, right? And it's this guy. We'll go back to the photoelectric effect. This is how our photovoltaic cells work by this property. Here's the biggest solar power array in Germany. Huge solar farms they have. They're way ahead of us, Germany and Denmark, way ahead of Canada. But it's changing radically now, this whole picture. And a fellow I know, his name is Joel Bellison. He's a geneticist, really interested in this topic. And he's looked at what's happening with solar power and its production and the cost reductions. He says if you plot a simple curve of the price drop of solar power since the 50s, it demonstrates that solar power has been dropping 3 times every decade for 50 years and will reach price parity grid electricity somewhere between 2010 and 2012. He's added another year on top of that lately because of the financial crash on Wall Street. This has slowed things down a bit. but we're still talking about an exponential curve. Now, on one hand, this sounds very positive. We've all heard this before. There's a lot of disgruntled hippies who've been walking around, people from the 60s who said, well, we tried solar power, it just didn't work out, it couldn't supply our needs. And now this is changing because the transmission, the batteries are cheaper, everything is changing, the cost per unit has gone down. Bellinson predicts solar will be cheaper than coal, not only cheaper than coal, but cheaper than wind by 2013. Okay? And it will wipe out all carbon emissions from energy generation by 2030 just through cost reduction while utilizing existing electricity power plant maintenance and replacement budgets. The present rate of 50% annual growth in solar power production capacity. Solar will replace all energy sources worldwide within 20 years. So this is projecting on the basis of the exponential growth that's happening now with the use of solar and the plunge of cost per unit of this for solar power panels and everything else. So here's a little video to show you exactly how much area the Earth would take. Area the size of France would supply all of the Earth's energy needs, completely supply all of our transportation, industrial power. Look at this as we take this area, drag it across northern Africa, the desert region. This is all the Earth's energy needs. This is based on the understanding and calculation that scientists have done now. Here's another picture from the Land Art Generator Initiative, and they're showing these contiguous areas, these spots around the Earth in lowly populated areas with a lot of relatively high sunlight. This is all it would take to supply all the Earth's energy needs with zero carbon. So if we follow the same path we're on now, this is where we're heading, because everything else is running dry. It's like the coal, oil, nuclear, and Bellinson calls it King Kong, C-O-N-G, coal, oil, nuclear, gas. These are old school energy sector interests, but they're drawing on finite resources. The sun is freely available for billions of years more. And this gives you a little cartoon depiction of the attitude of King Kong, coal, oil, nuclear, gas, well, big oil in this case, their attitude about solar power. Wind power, I'm not as enthusiastic about because there's some really iffy stuff going on with wind power with these gigantic wind turbines they're developing. They're very capital intensive, very industrial. They're not human scale level technology at all. But they're going to have a harder time doing this with solar to actually keep it away from individual decentralized networks of power generation. So we're talking about this abundant energy, billions of years on tap. Okay, what's this got to do with everything I'm saying, I've said so far? Well, I think if we go back to that chart I showed you of Arthur and Young, showing these levels where light loses a degree of freedom and emerges back up to the level of human beings with free will and volition. I believe that this is the opportunity now as conscious beings, as agencies of this intentional